And this is the formation lap for the third race of the weekend for the BRDC British Formula 3 Championship. Welcome to Oulton Park, everybody, on what has been a gloriously sunny Easter weekend. We've had two races, we've had two different winners, because the first race of the weekend, which was on Saturday, was won by the UK-based Swiss driver Clement Novalak, and earlier today, Kaylin Frederick, the American, took victory. This grid is based on a driver's second best qualifying time, so Oulton Simmons goes from pole. He's got a 12th and a retirement to his name. Jonathan Hoggard, third and an 8th, is second on the grid. Clement Novalak is the championship leader with a win and a 6th. He lines up third. Kaylin Frederick comes next, ahead of Kian Jewis and then Neil Verhagen, with Ulysse de Pauw and Sessakorn Chaimon Cole completing the top 8 on the grid. Manuel Maldonado is 9th. Lucas Pettersson is 10th on the grid, ahead of Nazim Asman and then Benjamin Pedersen. It's Hampus Eriksson, who had to pit for a new nose cone in race 2 after contact. He will start 13th on the grid with Pavan Ravichanka for company. Chris Wright, with whom Eriksson tangled in race 2, is 15th. And Josh Mason will complete the grid in the Lannon car. He has had a 10th and a 5th over the course of the weekend. The championship is being led based on 2 race results and also extra points for places gained in race 2 by Clement Novalak, who's got a 1st and a 6th to his name. 2nd in the championship, Jonathan Hoggard. 3rd and an 8th. 3rd in the championship, the Belgian driver Ulysse de Pauw, who's got a 4th and a 7th. 4th in the championship is the redoubtable Manuel Maldonado. 9th and a 3rd. 5th, Oulton Simmons with a 12th and a retirement. And then 6th is Kaylin Frederick with a 13th and a win. So we've had a fair mixture of results, but we're looking forward to what's going to be another interesting race, because again it's a slightly different looking grid. It's 14 laps or 20 minutes, depending on which is achieved first. David Addison and Andy McEwen trackside, and it's been a fascinating weekend for the BRDC F3 Championship, Andy, in as much as you've got a number of returning drivers and lots of newbies, and it's interesting to see who's got the upper hand.
Well, exactly. The front row for this grid, Oulton Simmons and Jonathan Hoggard, 2nd and 3rd respectively in the Formula 4 Championship last year. They made the step up into the BRDC F3 Championship here in Oulton Park. This is their 3rd ever race in the Championship, and straight on the pace. So they're straight on the pace in the first ever qualifying session, I guess. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how they get on. It's not uncommon to see new faces immediately winning races and fighting for the Championship in Formula 3. And we've got a really, really talented crop of young drivers in particular joining in this year. So expect fireworks from them, I think. Certainly watching their racing in Formula 4 last year, it was elbows out.
Absolutely right. These cars are quicker. They are 2-litre Tatius chassis with the Cosworth engine, and the cars now make their way up towards this 1x1 staggered grid. So can we do 3 rounds and 3 different winners, or will somebody be a double victor of the weekend? A word about Clement Novalak, because he was here last year, took a pole position, but then tripped over traffic in the first race. He only really did a part season last year and was busy with a Formula Renault Euro Cup campaign. He's also raced in the Toyota Racing Series, but he's come back with a rather renewed approach, I think, and he's focusing on one series, seemingly, rather than splitting his time across multitudinous single-seater categories. So it's paying dividends for Clement Novalak. He goes under a British flag because he likes Britain, but he is Swiss, and we are about to get this race underway. As you look down onto the grid and you see there Oulton Simmons, the man on pole position. The lights are red. When the lights go out now, we are racing. Who makes the best start? Simmons gets away nicely. In fact, he's away like a robber's dog from pole position, because he's about 3 lengths up already, as Clement Novalak goes 2nd on the inside line. Kian Jewis goes 4th, and there's a contact there, because going out wide, I fear, is Kaylin Frederick, who gets it back on again. But that is the race 2 winner in all sorts of strife. Kian Jewis goes 4th now on the inside of Neil Verhagen, going through Cascades for the first time, so he's made that work. But I'm afraid to say that Kaylin Frederick's car may not even have got away with that unscathed. He's back on the road, but he may well have picked up a bit of floor damage.
Yeah, I fear so. And that was Kian Jewis diving up the inside of 2 other cars into Old Hall Corner after another rocket ship getaway from Kian, who we saw get off the line well in the previous race today as well. But unfortunate for our race 2 winner in drama already in the first corner of the race. Oulton Simmons, though, pulling away. That was a mega start from him, taking advantage of the change of position for 2nd place. Hoggard was a little bit tardy away on the grass. Unfortunately, there is Pavan Ravichanka in the 28 car, so he will now be towards the back of the lead pack. Through his lobs we come then, single file really through here, particularly on coldish tyres here on the opening lap. They've had half a sighting lap to the grid, then the full green flag lap to get some temperature into the tyres and brakes, but nevertheless I'm sure the drivers are a little bit cautious, in theory at least, on this opening lap or so. No caution here though for Simmons. He is away by nearly a second, I'd say, at the end of the first lap.
Doing a great job, isn't he? As you say, pushing hard on these cold tyres. Caleb Frederick it was that went off. You saw him getting involved with Ravashanka, but he's coming back now, trying to get himself into the mix once more as the leaders dive down towards Lodge Corner. There in the blue and yellow car is Caleb Frederick trying to go to the outside line. If this works, it's going to be a very, very brave move indeed. He's going to run out of real estate and he has to slot back in behind as the leader, Ayrton Simmons, goes through ahead of Clement Novalak. The gap is 1 second at the end of the opening lap. In third place is Jonathan Hogarth. Fourth is Kian Jewis. Neil Verhagen is fifth. There you saw going through Old Hall Corner Nazim Azman, the Malaysian driver, new to British circuits this year, but somebody else with a good Formula 4 style pedigrees, come out of the Spanish Championship as well as racing in the UAE. And Caleb Frederick is going to be one to watch now. In a sense, he's got the wrong race in terms of overtaking people, because you get points for that in race 2 where he won from the front, but now he's got to try and make progress back up through the field, and it's not that easy to do, partly because Oulton Park's narrow, partly because these cars have aero, and the closer you get to the car ahead, and you're seeing it now as Jonathan Hogarth gets up onto the tail of Clement Novalak, you run in the dirty air that has the negative effect on your car and you go slower.
Yeah, exactly, and we saw in race 2 of the weekend, the race 1 of the day today, didn't we, that Clement Novalak gained 6 positions in the first lap and then really struggled to get anywhere else beyond that. 1 seconds down, exactly what you described happens there. The dirty air starts to take effect. It becomes increasingly difficult to find a way through. He should make some progress, they would imagine, should Frederick from 14th place at the moment.
Yeah.
How much awaits to be seen. I reckon, David, that lead gap is coming down. I think that Jonathan Hogarth is spurring Clement Novalak on here, and they're both starting to reel in the race leader. Indeed, Novalak faster than anyone else in the first sector, and Hogarth the same in sector 2. So they are definitely starting to inch back towards the leader, Ayrton Simmons, in only his third ever BRDC British Formula 3 Championship race. But the same is true of all 3 of these drivers in the leading group. The gap definitely coming down. Yes, new fastest lap of the race for Clement Novalak in second place. He wants that double race victory.
So Ayrton Simmons second in the race yesterday, on Saturday, looking to try and go one better here as the cars drop down through Denton's, and he's leading, and he's doing a very good job of trying to build up that lead. Now this is the replay of the start. Have a look and see if we can piece together what happened to Caleb Frederick going into Old Hall Corner. Did he fall or was he pushed? Frederick starting on the outside of the second row, in quotes, with it being a staggered grid. So have a look. The blue and yellow car gets away reasonably well. It was a great start by Ayrton Simmons. Novalak on the inside line to go ahead of Hogarth. And there, look, Kian Jewis gets up the inside. There was a bit of a rub. You can see the tar smoke, and it's Frederick who comes off worse, and he goes way, way wide. Thankfully, doesn't lose it. It looked perilously close to swapping ends on him. So there, the 3 leaders are bunching up now. So Ayrton Simmons with a second place and a retirement to his name. Clement Novalak behind him in second spot. 8/10 was the margin. Novalak having done the fastest lap of the race.
Yeah, Simmons really could have done without that non-finish in this morning's race, couldn't he? Because he's clearly got the pace to be a regular front runner and championship contender, and this is one of those championships which tends to be decided by not an enormous amount of points at the end of the season, and you always look back, don't you, at these early races where you've had a non-finish or you finished a bit further down than you should have done, and think, if only that had gone to plan, those points could be so valuable. But yes, Ayrton Simmons leading the way now. Kian Jewis, though, doing his best to latch onto that leading 3. Let's see the lap times as they come through. Who is the fastest of the leading 4 on that particular lap? It is the second place man, Clement Novalak, who was a couple of tenths quicker, in fact, than the race leader Ayrton Simmons. So second place catching first place, but third and fourth place sort of staying with them as well. So fourth in the lead, really.
So can Clement Novalak do anything else about Ayrton Simmons? You kind of have a push, and it either works or it doesn't, and then you have to back off and let your tyres have a breather and then push again. So if he does close, he needs to be pretty incisive and try and make that move strike straight away. As there, look, there's another little battle raging on nicely as the cars swoop through Island Bend. Remember, everybody has the same car, same Chattius chassis, so it's down to how well you and the team get on to get the best out of it. And there, you saw 22, which is Lucas Pettersson on the back of Benjamin Pedersen, just to make life all good, and the 2 of them go through together. But there, look, 22, which is Lucas Pedersen, accelerating now up towards Hilltop, the Swede, with a very almost Ronnie Peterson style crash out into the blue and the yellow, coming towards the Hislop chicane. They're being caught as well now by Nazim Azman. So this battle for 9th, 10th and 11th places heads up Clay Hill then, that double apex right at Druids. And up front, it is Simmons with 0.6 of a second the margin last time. And Novalak has done the absolute best in the middle sector, so that's another couple of tenths pulled back. So he's going the right way about it, isn't he, here, Novalak? Maldonado, incidentally, Manuel Maldonado is up into 7th place now at the expense of Cecil Chimon Cole, the Thai driver. There is the leader. Ayrton Simmons comes over the line. If you go back to 1983, it was Ayrton Senna winning in Formula 3, but now Ayrton Simmons by half a second being caught again, because that time, Andy, Novalak doing another fastest lap of the race.
Yes, and now fairly equidistantly spread, aren't they? Half a second between first and second, and another half a second back to the third place man, Jonathan Hoggard. So there they are, your leading three, using that little bit of extra tarmac that's been laid on the exit of Cascades. They will use every inch of racetrack available to them, won't they? And that means they can carry a little bit less steering lock on the exit of the corner, a little bit more speed down the already very rapid Lakeside straight, and through that quick left-hander at Island Bend. At this part of the circuit, though, possibly because of the high-speed nature of the corners, the dirty air may be affecting Clement Novalak negatively, and he's dropped right back into the clutches of Jonathan Hoggard, who's got a bit of a second wind here all of a sudden. Faster than anybody else in the first sector on this lap is Jonathan, and actually the slowest of the three in the first sector was the middleman, Clement Novalak. So it's going to continue to ebb and flow, I think, isn't it, David? It may well come down to mistakes, if any, come at all for these three drivers.
Yeah, Novalak potentially gets a bit stuck, doesn't he? Because he pushes, he gets in the dirty air, and then the progress stops. Hoggard, because he's a bit further back, gets that clear track space. He can push, he can go quicker, and then he gets into the dirty air of Novalak's car, and that's all negated again. So, as we saw earlier on, it only takes one tiny little error, but now, look, Simmons does look like he's getting away once more. Novalak there in second place, down they come towards Lodge Corner, and the gap second to third looking less than the gap between the top two. So it is Ayrton Simmons then who leads the way, comes up, crosses the timing line, goes through now the British driver. Second last year within the British F4 Championship. He did drive in F3, in fact, at Spa and Donington and Silverstone, so he's got some car knowledge coming into this year. Clement Novalak did a part season as well, and there he is running in that second spot, but the gap has shot up, hasn't it? 8 tenths now, and Simmons has just done the best lap of the race.
Yes, ordinarily I would suggest that Novalak is doing exactly what you suggested and backing off and cooling the tyres. Of course, I don't think he is, because that means he's dropping back towards Jonathan Hoggard. He doesn't really have that luxury right now, does he? Either way, he has got some clean air in front of him, so whether it's intentional or not, he should be able to cool things down for a lap or two and possibly look towards a renewed attack as we move into the second half of the race. What of Caleb Frederick, I hear you ask? Well, he's gained one more spot on that lap. He's into 13th place, but really is rather illustrating our point that it is tough to pass, and I think that may have come as a result of a mistake, possibly for Chris Wright, because Chris lost 3 spots on that lap and went from 13th down to 16th and last. So Caleb Frederick very much ruining that first corner contact with Kia and Julius. Wouldn't be at all surprised to see those two having a bit of a discussion post-race about it, but it really has ruined Frederick's race. He'll be looking to make the top 10.
Indeed so, and Chris Wright's not having a great time because he ended up being nerfed out, didn't he, of the first race today. Cian Dewis is being given a driving standards flag. Now, whether that's for turn 1 or track limit abuse, the race director is not for telling, but that's the situation, a driving standards flag. Now, look at this lead gap. It's come down, hasn't it, from 8 tenths. Novalak, late lap, has a push. He's done a personal best, an absolute best in sectors 1 and 2. He breaks the beam. The lap that he's done is 4 tenths quicker. The gap is down from 8 tenths to 4 tenths. So they are back together once again. And now 9 tenths covers the top 3, so it's all bunching up nicely within this leading situation, and we've still got half the race to go. Clement Novalak then, the championship leader, chasing after the man that's currently 5th in the championship after that one non-finish, but Ayrton Simmons needs to bank good points here.
You've got to remember as well, this is the 3rd race of the weekend. They've had practice and qualifying as well. It's been hot for all 3 days here at Oulton Park as well. And these are drivers who are not that accustomed to driving at this sort of speed and the G-forces and the heat. And what I'm saying is it's very easy to make a mistake, and they're on the ragged edge now, all pushing and putting in personal best sectors left and right. So that tiniest of mistakes may well come, and if it's going to come, it may well be in this race, and I think it just has for Ayrton Simmons. He was slow off the chicane, and this is Novalak's chance. He will want to seize it if he can. He will also want to preserve the points, and Simmons off onto the grass. He shortcuts the chicane, rejoins in front of Novalak, and this could give Hoggard the lead. It does! Jonathan Hoggard from 3rd to 1st. Remarkable opportunism there. He read the situation beautifully between the 2 cars in front. It all got a bit tangled up, and Jonathan Hoggard is your new race leader.
And Ayrton Simmons, frustrated with himself. Clement Novalak livid with all of that. He was the one that came off worst because there was just nothing he could do except go all over the grass. Now, Hogard it is who leads, but he's under attack from Oulton Simmons. Novalak might yet win this because they could always trip over themselves here. Oulton Simmons has got the pace to get back ahead. Jonathan Hogard making the car wide. We've also got Chris Wright in last place, having been given a penalty for a false start. The three leaders in this new order then have Hogard third to first in the lead of the race. Oulton Simmons down to second, down to third has got Novalak. 7/10 covering the top three drivers as they blast downhill. And now, look, Hogard has had 3 corners of defensive driving. Now he's able to settle into a rhythm and he's getting away. And that makes Novalak's life doubly difficult because he still hasn't got past Simmons, and there's another car up the road that he's got to get past as well. So Jonathan Hogard from the front row of the grid, second in the championship after the 2 races thus far, a third and an 8th, suddenly finds himself in the box seat.
Ben, he could not believe his luck then as he came through the chicane that time, and all of a sudden things change as quickly as that. And Hogard, as you said, now starting to break away slightly, but we sort of thought that was happening for Oulton Simmons before, and then it all changed. Out to the British chicane they go. Here's a replay. He must have been slow off Britons for some reason. We didn't catch why, but that allowed Novalak around the outside. They're both super late on the brakes. Simmons on the tight line should have braked a bit earlier, ran straight on, and then no one at fault really. He just sort of bounced back onto the road right in front of Novalak, and Jonathan Hogard needed no second invitation. You have to take those chances when they present themselves, because they won't present themselves that often.
Novalak did nothing wrong. He got the car slowed down. He went through the corner, and it was either go on the grass and lose time and ground and momentum, or have an accident. Simmons bouncing his way back onto the circuit. So what that now gives us is Jonathan Hogard in the lead of the race from Oulton Simmons. There in third place is a rather miffed, I would have thought, Clement Novalak. Now what can he do to try and salvage anything out of this? The leaders go by over the timing line. That puts 8 laps of 14 or 20 minutes in the book, and it is Hogard, Simmons and Novalak 1.2 seconds. And there again, it's perhaps early in the season to think about it, but Novalak giving an example of why sometimes you don't want to get stuck in, because it could have also nearly ended in contact and a non-finish. Not only is he in third, but he's being caught now by Cian Jewis. Now Novalak, having bounced his way all over the grass, may well have affected the balance and the aero on the underside of the car in all of that, which means that it's no longer 100%, and that is enabling Cian Jewis to get that little bit nearer. It's 14 laps or 20 minutes depending on where we get to first. There are 7 minutes and 6 laps to go. A flying lap at the moment is just over 1.5 minutes, and Jonathan Hogard leads by 7/10 of a second, and the man who is absolutely charging, there he is Cian Jewis in 4th place.
Cian, I seem to remember, came on quite strong in the second half of the previous race as well, so it all come down to tyre pressures. The lower you set the tyre pressures, the more you'll struggle early on, but in theory the longer tyre life you'll have. That may be what Cian Jewis has done here. Certainly he's benefited from the squabbling in front. He wipes out one of the floppy marker posts at Knickerborough corner that rarely lasts the day intact, and continues to close in on 3 cars in front. But the pace in this race is notably slower than we've seen in previous races. In both of the first 2 races, the fastest lap was a low or mid 1:31. Fastest lap in this race is a 32.3. So maybe the heat, maybe the fact that they've been jostling for position at the front of the field means the pace is quite a bit slower. And so yes, I tend to agree. I don't think we'll reach 14 laps quite. We haven't done yet this weekend, and I don't think we will in this one either.
It may also be that out of the tyre allocation they're now on old rubber, or a combination of perhaps a couple of old and a couple of fresher tyres, and that's having an effect as well. There, absolutely flying, Neil Verhagen going out of Old Hall corner. Clement Novalak also pushing on very, very determinedly, running in that 3rd place as you saw. Fastest lap is Oulton Simmons. We have got now 5.5 minutes just over, still to go. But Jonathan Hogard, having hit the front, as I said, he had those 3 corners of defensive driving. But after that, he has made this look very impressive indeed. We know how good he was in Formula 4, now stepping up to these more powerful Formula 3 cars. He's adapting nicely, and so Jonathan Hogard it is that leads the way for Fortec, Richard Dutton's very experienced team, and comes then now over the brow of the hill down towards the Hislop's chicane, with Oulton Simmons going after him, but the gap in the first sector widening, and Novalak now is falling further away in that 3rd place. It still makes me wonder whether that car is all 100% or not, because the other suggestion is that Novalak is rather despondent now, having seen a potential challenge for the race lead ebb away, but I don't think he's that kind of a driver. He's normally a fighter, so I'm starting to think maybe the car isn't giving him what he needs it to anymore after the little trip over the grass. Lower down there is Caelan Frederick, who's had his own grassy moment, and he now has gained a place, has he not? Because that puts him ahead of Hampus Eriksson into the top dozen.
Yeah, he did that, I think, against Oulton Park at the start of the lap. I spotted out of the window. This is a nice little fight as well, isn't it? This is the fight for 7th place. Manuel Maldonado, the first of the red and white cars at the head of the train. Then it's Sassakorn Chamankol in 8th, and then the Pedersen scrap behind for 9th and 10th. All sort of joined together now, so 4 cars scrapping over 7th position. They've been in this order for most of the race, but always threatening moves on each other. And in fact, we've also got the 7 car of Nazim Azman starting to reel them in too. So a 5-car train we've got here in the midfield. Down through Cascades they will go, and then along the Lakeside Straight there is Azman in 11th position, and the previous lap sort of matched them. I think he caught them towards the beginning of the lap, and now he's running at their pace. Fastest lap, by the way, for the race leader, David, I've just spotted, of 1:32.3. That is impressive at this stage of the race.
It is, and it's partly having that clear air in front, warmer tyres now, fuel load coming down, and Jonathan Hoggard, having also gapped by 11/10, means that he can take his own lines, doesn't have to think about defending, unlike Maldonado, who is very, very busy defending from Sassakorn Chamankol, who's got better than he was 12 months ago, as he's had more seat time with these cars. He's got better and better and better. Maldonado, winner here last year, comes under attack as they drop down towards his lots. But Maldonado stands his ground, comes through his lots, 3 minutes on the clock. This is lap number 11. Sassakorn Chamankol turns out of Knickerbrook corner, climbs the hill. And those two fighting over 7th and 8th places. Just up the road ahead is Ulysse de Pauw, the Belgian driver, but Maldonado it is by 3/10 in the last sector, heading the pack. The race leaders are going to come through in a moment. They'll have 2 more laps to squeeze out of the race, I would suggest, as through has just gone Jonathan Hoggard, and a challenge is made there. Look, diving up on the inside, through will go Pedersen against Pedersen. Pedersen gets forced out wide and rattles over the curb, and Nazim Azman's going to come up and challenge him as they head over the timing line. So Lucas Pedersen goes through, and Nazim Azman on the outside line is going to try to brave it out, wheel to wheel. Azman gets spat out across the curb and over the grass. He keeps his foot in, and he's going to lose it if he's not careful. Just gets it back on the tarmac in time, but that means that not only has he had a very rough ride indeed, and you can see the air intakes are now full of grass, he's a long, long way off the back of that train of cars.
And overheating may well now be the top of the list of his worries after that one as well. You mentioned the grass and the air takes. Needless to say, it's rather warm here today, so he will be keen to try and get rid of that if at all possible, but with no one else around him, it's not even like he can tuck him behind another car and use the air to the air pressure to get rid of it. Either way, it doesn't really bother the race leader, because Jonathan Hoggard, having set that fastest lap a couple of laps ago, on the previous lap was within a few hundredths of that pace again. So not only was it one quick lap, but he is consistently able to lap down on fastest lap pace. Still some way off what they did in the previous 2 races, but as David alluded to, the tyre situation may well have quite a lot to do with that. Here is this fight between Maldonado and Chamankol. Sassakorn has been doing everything he can here. He's tried left, he's tried right, he's tried everything other than driving over the top of Maldonado, I think. But Manuel, having had that podium earlier on today, will want to try and take the points home for 7th place here rather than 8th, and that could even become 9th really, because as is often the case when a group of cars this closely bunched together, if you lose one position, it tends to be that you might lose 2 or 3. So for Manuel Maldonado, no mistakes allowed here.
I mean, it shows the difference, doesn't it, with a clear road ahead of you and then being stuck in the traffic, because look at the way here that 22 Lucas Pedersen, having got past Pedersen, has just stormed up onto the tail, and then he gets stuck. You know, there's the next cork in the bottle. So now he's going to try and find a way past Sassakorn Chamankol, of course, because the cars are so evenly matched. That's part of the problem. Now, we've got the cars within the last minute of the race. It should be the checkered flag this time. And Jonathan Hoggard, with that great opportunistic bit of driving to be in the right place at the right time, leads the way from Simmons in 2nd place and Clement Novalak in 3rd. So for Novalak, it will be a 1st, a 6th and a 3rd, and for Jonathan Hoggard a 3rd, an 8th and potentially a 1st as he comes over hill top, then now down towards his lots, and this is where it all changed. So he leads the pack, he turns his way now through the right, the left of his lots, then right at Knickerbrook, and Jonathan Hoggard, who is part of the British Racing Drivers Club's Rising Stars programme, helping to nurture young talent, comes up past the water tower on his way towards the double apex right of Druid, with now in 2nd place Simmons dropping away, and Maldonado is about to lose out to Chamankol, who gets up the inside going into Knickerbrook. That all started going into his lots, and Chamankol goes through up into 7th place. As to the checkered flag, 3 different winners in British Formula 3 this weekend. It's going to be Jonathan Hoggard then who comes up to take the checkered flag, and the Fortec Motorsports car is going to win this 3rd race of the weekend at Oulton Park. Jonathan Hoggard wins round 3 of the BRDC British F3 Championship from Simmons in 2nd place. Clement Novalak will be 3rd. Kian Jewis 4th. Neil Verhagen is 5th, and then everybody else for 6th in a line. Seemingly Ulysse de Pauw will come through now, just ahead of Susseko and Chimon Cole, then Manuel Maldonado, with the Peterson-Pedersen battle going the way of Peterson. So Lucas Peterson from Benjamin Pedersen, the American driver, 10th. 11th is Nazim Asman. In 12th, Caleb Frederick after his grassy moment at the start. 13th, Hampus Eriksson. And then Josh Mason is going to be in 14th spot. But Jonathan Hoggard proving that if you're in the right place at the right time, things can fall your way. But that was a very, very assured drive. And Clement Novalak maybe had a problem after that moment, but never looked as on his toes, did he, in that second half of the race after that incident had happened?
No, he didn't, but that was a fantastic race, actually, and not necessarily what we expected, because with this grid being based on tyres from qualifying again, with quick drivers right at the front, we sort of expected that things might stay fairly static. How wrong we were, because that was probably the most exciting race at the front of the field we've had all weekend, and I'm relishing now seeing what happens throughout the rest of the season, because I reckon those three, Hoggard, Simmons and Novalak, they're going to be championship contenders. But Kieran Jewis is not a million miles off the pace. We didn't see the best from Caleb Frederick in that race either after his early issues. So we're in for a good season, I think, aren't we, David?
Absolutely right. 3 different winners at Oulton Park. Jonathan Hoggard wins race 3 from Ayrton Simmons in 2nd place and Clement Novalak in 3rd. It's Kieran Jewis in 4th ahead of Neil Verhagen and Ulysse de Pauw. Susseko and Chimon Cole bag 7th ahead of Manuel Maldonado right at the very end. The 9th and 10th battle between Lucas Patterson and Benjamin Pedersen goes the way of the Swede, with next up Nazim Asman in 11th. 12th, Caleb Frederick from Hampus Eriksson, Josh Mason 14th, and Pavel Ravashankar, who was rally crossing at the start, down in 15th spot. Chris Wright also made it home in 16th, but he was given a penalty, so he looks even further, I'm afraid to say, adrift of the pack, because the 10 seconds drop him further away. There were lots of highlights, and they all began with that run into Old Hall Corner. Great getaway by the pole man, which was Ayrton Simmons, Clement Novalak going with him, and Caleb Frederick, who'd started 4th, was nowhere near that when he came out of Old Hall after a big, big moment. Up front, Simmons was able to build a lead. Then the gap came down as Novalak started to push, and there were battles going on lower down the order as well as Caleb Frederick tried to find a way around the outside of Hampus Eriksson going through Lodge Corner. But this was the crucial moment of the race, the defining moment, as Ayrton Simmons got it wrong and Novalak nearly got wiped out in avoidance. Jonathan Hoggard said thank you very much. He got past 1, he got past 2, and from then on he was never headed. Manuel Maldonado came under attack from Susseko and Chimon Cole as lower down the order Lucas Peterson got past Benjamin Pedersen as they went through Lodge. Nazim Asman was the next man to try and attack Pedersen. Instead, he nearly ended up in the campsite, but he managed to just save the slide. But Jonathan Hoggard wins round 3 of the BRDC British F3 Championship. He scores a race win by 1.4 seconds from Ayrton Simmons.
Well,
and Clement Novalak in 3rd.
Sorry, that was going to say, it was a very entertaining race, wasn't it? And
yeah.
I think the crowd are rather enjoying themselves today, aren't they, David? They've got great weather, great circuit, great racing as well, and it's no surprise to see that it's a packed house here at Oulton Park, which is lovely to see, isn't it? Because we've made the point a few times today that this traditional Easter weekend meeting isn't always blessed with this sort of weather, and nor therefore the hardy spectators that do turn up. Yeah, so it's nice to see so many people here supporting us, isn't it?
You're right. I've known the occasional damp Easter meeting.
1 or 2.
Yes, over the years. And Oulton Park, a busy circuit, which is great to see. And this bank holiday meeting, which continues a trend of high-profile Easter meetings. It used to be Good Friday when you'd have, as an example, British Formula 1 and the, as it then was, British Saloon Car Championship, but the Oulton Park Gold Cup, when it was a period Formula 1 race, often ran over the Easter weekend. But Formula 3 drivers then, in the new incarnation, the latest iteration of British Formula 3, single-make cars rather than the way that the FIA Championship has gone, but giving very, very competitive racing, and then the drivers all now have the discussion as to who did what, but certainly builds us up nicely to a very competitive season, because if you were to predict anybody winning races, would you have first of all had 3 different ones, and would they have been the 3? So it's certainly going to be an interesting year, that is for certain.
Yeah, absolutely. They're not even the 3 most experienced drivers, are they? They're all 3 of them making either their first or very early steps into Formula 3 racing. So the fact that they're straight on the pace now is ominous for those who are maybe sticking around for a second season. People like Manuel Maldonado, who perhaps over the winter will have felt that they should have been in the catbird seat now, because, you know, everyone who finished in front of Manuel last season in the championship has moved on elsewhere, and so you know, for Manuel, he's got some stiff competition this year in the shape of some of the new boys moving up from the lower single seater ranks, and yeah, we're in for a highly competitive championship.
Maldonado's in his third year, isn't he? So
he is,
really,
yes.
you know, he ought to be not just winning, but the benchmark driver. But he's been humbled a little bit this weekend. But Jonathan Hoggard there, very, very good racecraft indeed, and it's going to be certainly a fascinating season. The drivers will, in a few moments' time, make their way to the podium. The next stop for the BRDC British F3 Championship will be at Snetterton over the weekend of May the 18th and 19th. Which is a very different sort of circuit, much flatter than Oulton Park. It's part of the MSV group, so it's another sort of home venue for the championship. But it will be interesting to see there whether we have another shuffle of winners or whether the same names are to be found at the very top of the leaderboard. So it's Snetterton next. Silverstone Grand Prix circuit will be the third venue on the calendar. It has its away weekend at Spa as well, which will be a real treat for the drivers on the Belgian Grand Prix circuit. But for now, we've had three different race winners: Clement Novalak, Caelan Frederick and Jonathan Hoggard, the stars of the BRDC British F3 Championship from Oulton Park. From Andy McEwen and David Addison, it's bye-bye for now.